shook her all of a sudden. I was a freestyler. But not only was I a freestyler, I didn't like to do like the 500 freestyle. Mile, no. Coach Dodger here reminded me that he selected me for an all-star team just prior to that, and apparently I was so gracious to be selected as a wild card. I had to do the 200 fly willingly. Thanks, Coach, for giving me that opportunity. Lots of good memories coming back. But, you know, I thought that kind of fire had gone out, but I found that it was still there. That coal was still burning, and I kind of lit it up. And I was a freestyler now. I was in high school, and all of a sudden I had new goals and new incentive to discover how I can improve and get better. And I wasn't going to do it with the long distance events, but, you know, as a matter of fact, my very first national cut. Anybody here have a national cut? Anybody? Some of the old ones? There we go, okay. Very first national cut was the 200 freestyle. I went out in a 44. Came back in a 53. Oh man, the pain. You know, and it's funny, I've always, back then I was a turn and burn guy, a fly and die. You know, there's a lot of ways you can say it, and I still swim that way. You know, I remember actually in this picture, there's a 2000 Olympian, Chad Carvin, who I was racing that day when I got my first national cut. He was livid because I was so far ahead and he couldn't catch me. But I got my first national cut that way, and actually that was the first time I attracted the notice of college coaches. Because do you still have the Q meet here? Or is it something else now? Something else. Okay, so anyways, it was the biggest meet of the year where I managed to pull this off. And all the college coaches were there. They were recruiting. And college is, I mean, as you all should well know, is a big deal. College is a big deal. We're all expected to go to college if we're going to go places. And especially if we're going to swim, that's kind of like the amateur leagues on the way to the pros. And I feel like in 2000, that was the last year that there was like a surplus, at least of male Olympians that were still in college. Now there's like a single one. So college is kind of like the minor leagues of swimming. But that's where you really refine your craft the most. I'll get to that a little bit later. But I was attracted to the notice of college coaches, and they saw this, you know, going out in a 44, coming back in a 53. Who does that? Maybe there's something there. Maybe there's some. I mean, this kid is blind to pain. I mean, he knows it's coming, but he does it anyways. Yes, high school was a good time. For those of you that are finishing up, you know, college is going to be even better. But keep this in mind as well. When I got to college, you know, they call it higher education. And that really takes place, I thought that was just the classroom. But more so than that, for me, that took place in the pool. Because before, when I was growing up swimming, I kind of just would do as I was told, or occasionally I'd do what I was told. And it was really just play and the kind of social time, and I had a great friend who let me draft off him every single set, coming through practices. We all did the same thing. But when you get to college, it's very different. Very different. Now, all of a sudden, we were separated into groups. You had your middle distance strokers, you had your long distance freestylers, and your 4-9-ers, and then you had your sprinters. So we started kind of specializing. Really started specializing in college. And not only that, I started taking classes that helped me refine my understanding of how the world works and how mechanics work. Taking physics. Physics for future presidents, they call it, because it actually doesn't involve numbers, it just involves ideas. And I really started taking those ideas and really trying to apply it to what I was doing in the water. And not only that, nothing is created great on its own. So what I started doing is I started watching videotape of the Olympics before, from 1996, and the Olympics before that in 1992, and even yonder before that in 1988. I started watching the sprint freestylers and just trying to discover what it was they were doing that was so great. I was educating myself on how people swim fast, and then how I can make it my own. From Gary Hall Jr., how he had this incredible catch on the water, to Alex Popov, who had the Russian rocket, multi-Olympic gold medalist, who had the most incredible torque and length to his stroke, to Matt Biondi, Cal Bear, Go Bears, who almost did what Michael Phelps did. And I was looking at all their techniques, and I started trying to emulate, but without actually trying to be them. I was trying to take bits and pieces and put it together to what eventually became a stroke that was all my own. And that wasn't just 1 year of college. You know, when I left high school, I was one of the best in the country, true, but on the national level, I wasn't in the top 16. If there was a top 16 banquet for the entire country, for the open age group, I wouldn't have been at it. But by the end of that first college season, A, I'd won college championships, B, I set a world record, and then 3, all of a sudden I found myself in a training group with Olympians, both foreign and domestic, with the goal of getting back to another Olympics, and I was just trying to get to my first. It all happened in a really, really short period of time. I mean, I am a sprinter, so maybe I was a little bit prepared for it in some ways, definitely not in others. And that summer, all of a sudden, I was racing all these guys I'd kind of just heard about. Guys that we were all jockeying for that Olympic berth. It's funny that they call it a berth for a reason, because if you actually do make the Olympics, you are born again in a fashion. Things become slightly different. And I wasn't the most confident swimmer, being so young and surrounded by such great talent. But knowing that I at least belonged in the same pool as them, that when I was going to Olympic trials, I had my mind set on the 100 freestyle. Because the 100 freestyle, they take six people get to go to the Olympics. It's like this bonus wild card thing. Every other event, they just take 2, but for the 100 and the 200 freestyle, they take 6. So I thought this was going to be my way in. And I stuck to my guns, did a turn and burn, went out, and what did I go out in? I went out in like a 22.9, and then it came back in a 27. 27 low, but it was pretty much vertical by the end of the race. Polar bear climbing up my back. I watched a few people go right by me, but I was just like, a few can beat me, but I gotta get top 6. And I got fit. And when I had turned around, and despite all the lactic acid coursing through my muscles, making me feel like a stone, when I saw that number 5 next to my name, it was like the greatest relief I'd ever felt. The greatest relief. And at that point, there was all of a sudden the pressure was off. So when I stood up for the 50 freestyle, not thinking that it was necessarily my marquee event yet, I was just practicing. I was just going through everything that I'd rehearsed, everything that I'd practiced. I just let it happen. I didn't think about it. I was doing new things. I was working on this new stroke. I didn't breathe. I thought it was kind of ridiculous that people were always breathing in the 50 freestyle. Maybe that was the contribution of swimming in that pool with no ventilation. Just really strong and dirty. I just jumped in, didn't breathe, finished that lap, and turned around to see that I was second. I was second in the 50 freestyle, so I was going not for only 1, but for 2 events, the Olympics. And from that point forward, it was kind of a whirlwind. I don't think it'll be super valuable trying to share all the details of that. I didn't have a passport. I'd never even been out of the country before. I was going to Australia. You know, I was never on the national junior team, so I wasn't experienced in a lot of ways for what the Olympics, generally the trodden path, how people get there, what they've been through. I didn't do any of that. I went from being, you know, Southern California CIF Division II champion to all of a sudden on the Olympic team. And it was like a dream. I was like, I can't believe this happened. It's like a dream coming true. Dream coming true. I was on this relay, USA, USA. And we had never, since they brought this relay to the Olympic Games, USA had won the gold medal every single time. Wait. No round of applause for me, okay? Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. Replay.
Anyways, sorry, I can't start over. Where was I? Oh yes, my dream was coming true. I was gonna win a gold medal. I was on the Team USA relay. You know, and because I was 5th place, the way it works is, the guys who get 1, 2, they don't have to swim prelims. You know, they have the individual events, so they rest them. So guys 3, 4, 5, and 6 duke it out in the morning, and the top 2 guys get to swim in the evening for the finals, to actually be on the actual gold medal relay, to actually be able to stand up on that podium with your teammates, see the stars and stripes go up, and hear our national anthem. I remember the day before, me and Jason Lezak. You guys know Jason Lezak? Yeah. Greatest American relay swimmer of all time? Yes, Jason Lezak. We were talking a little smack. He's like, oh, I'm going to be on that relay. I'm like, well, I'm going to be on that relay too. Because he was 3rd. So when we actually swam that relay, it's like there was this kind of like inter-squad competition between us. And sure enough, the fire was strongest with us too, and we were the 2 that were fastest and got to swim in the night relay. And man, I was so excited. And I always get, and I still do, I get really, really nervous whenever I race. But it's become part of my craft that I take that nervousness and I own it, I make it mine, it becomes my fuel so that I can be what I need to be. And I was super nervous, and I was walking out behind those blocks with my 3 other teammates, Gary Hall Jr., Neil Walker, and Jason Lezak. And we were the top seed. Hell, we had nearly broke the world record in prelims. We were only off by like 2/10. So I was feeling really good, really confident. And I was the leadoff leg. So I stood up on that block. 2nd place going into finals was Australia. They were just a 2nd, whatever. I stood up on that block. Never been known for my good start, by the way. Take your marks, go. And I'm in the underwater, thinking as fast as I can, and I sneak a little look. Out of the corner of my eye, I see the feet of Michael Klim, the Australian, who opens up that relay. All right, well, first of all, I saw how far ahead it was just in the first 15 meters, and I just went crazy. Just started spinning my wheels, caught him at the turn, and died. Oh man, what had worked out for me so well in the past didn't seem to be working this time. And when I finished, like about a half body length behind Michael Klim of Australia, despite doing a best time, I felt terrible. Because Michael Klim had broke the world record opening up that relay. And when Jason Lezak jumped in, he was behind, and I climbed out in agony, and it was like I was participating in a broken record. Because Jason Lezak would sprint, and he caught him at the turn, only to die and fade away. And then Neil Walker jumped in, sprints, overtake him at the 50, only to die and fade away once again. And then all of our hopes or with one Gary Hall Jr., who dove in next to Ian, the torpedo Thorpe. Sprinted, had a full body length ahead of him by the 50, only to be overtaken the very last stroke. Dream crushed. Gold medal gone. I was devastated. I mean, we can have some levity now and laugh about it. I can laugh about it now, but at the time, I was utterly demoralized because I didn't think I had what it took in the 50. I knew I had another chance, but I didn't believe in that chance. And I spent the next 5 days just rehearsing everything that can go right, everything that can go wrong. You know, I've always been a rather sensitive guy with an overactive imagination. And I was able to play out every possible scenario from the start to the breakout, to the swim, to the finish. What could go right, what could go wrong. And I tried to develop the best game plan possible. You know, I became like a robot for those days as I was leading up to my race. And I was so nervous that the night before prelims, I couldn't even sleep. I watched the sun come up over Australia. Did not sleep a wink, and I had to go swim preliminaries of the Olympics. But fortunately, despite being so tired, I got 14th place. Yes! Made it to semifinals. Immediately went and took a nap. And then coming out of semifinals, I was third. Had a whole day to take. You know, each of those races became a learning experience. You know, I kind of analyzed what went right in prelims, despite being super tired. I was like, well, you know, things did go right. What could have been better? Took some of those things, made it better in the evening, in semifinals, got the results for it. Took that performance, analyzed it, figured out what it was that was working for me, and what could use a little bit of improvement. Set up a plan. No game time decisions in the 50. You make a plan beforehand, and then you try to execute. So when I walked out there for the finals, lane 3, on one side of me, Gary Hall Jr., on the other side of me, Pieter van den Hoogenband, the Flying Dutchman who had already dethroned Ian Thorpe and won 2 gold medals. And then on the far side of me, Alex Popov, the defending Olympic champion. I had a clear, concise plan of how I wanted to swim this race. And then all I needed to do was do it. I honestly can't tell you much about the swim itself, because everything was in the planning. Everything was into how I constructed myself for, let's call it 19 years, leading up to that moment. And I just let it happen. And from that, what I do remember touching at the finish, immediately turning around, didn't have contact, so I squinted up the scoreboard, and I saw a 1 next to my name. And not only did I see a 1 next to my name, but I saw a 1 next to the name of my training partner and teammate, Gary Hall Jr. We both won the gold medal, first time that had ever happened, and I was really happy. But the true moment, the true Olympic moment, the true gold medal moment, was when I stood on that podium with my teammate. We both received gold medals, and then to see the American flag raising up, playing the national anthem, then I really knew that it wasn't just me. It never was just me all along who was swimming. It was everybody that had ever been behind me. You know, so hold on to your friends. Hold on to the people that help you become who you are. That's my gold medal story. I did go to a second